Whenever we've spoken to Rostow, Ravanan, he's been fairly optimistic about growth coming ahead. But let's try and put all of these things into perspective and get his view as to what the course of the next 12 months could be. Mr. Ravanan, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us and speaking to us on Bloomberg Quint. The last time that I spoke to you, you categorically mentioned that you don't know what will happen to the industry at large, but you knew about the bearings on Mindtree. The reason why I thought we should have this conversation more from an investor's perspective as well is to try and gauge if the growth that companies by and large, and not just Mindtree, will see in FY19 would largely be a result of a much lower base that could be a factor at play, or is business sentiment looking so strong that a robust growth number in FY19 could well be accompanied by a reasonably strong growth in FY20? Is it possible to look that far currently?
Of course, yes. But before I answer your question, you really made my day today. I think forever I'll remember this day when we were called an emerging large cap. For a 17, 18-year-old company, I think that's a great tagline to get associated with. Thank you so much for recognizing us.
No, I'm not doing it. Your work is recognizing yourself.
I personally feel Thank you, but sometimes you need somebody to also call it, right? People like us are so strongly focused on our own business. Sometimes you don't pay attention to the external kind of factors there. So it's great to get the recognition that you're giving us today.
Okay.
But answering your question, personally I feel very, very excited about the prospects for Mindtree, even over the medium term, even over say a 3 to 5 year period. I think what we are building as a franchise is resonating very strongly with customers, and we continue to attract world-class talent and delivering some really, really high impact both to societies and to businesses. So all of those factors I think are working in our favor. The only possible risk could be if anything happens from a geopolitical or terrorism or any of those kind of macro events could derail our story at this moment. But barring any of those kind of systemic events, on our own we are very bullish about our business from a growth perspective. And like in our business, growth is the biggest driver for margins as well. If we continue to execute smartly on growth, it should also lead to smart improvements on margins for us. So very positive on both fronts for our own business.
Are you saying, Mr. Ravanan, that as things stand, there is an outside chance that after 11, 12, 13, 14%, whatever the number is, of growth that you as a company clock in FY19, there is a very strong possibility of double-digit growth that could accompany that in FY20, possibly FY21 and beyond as well?
Absolutely. So we see a trend that where our growth will accelerate. The core strengths of Mindtree are very strong. We got hit by client-specific challenges in 16 and 17. Much of that is behind us. So the absence of the drag as well as the growth tailwinds that our customers are giving us should stand us in good stead even for the next 3 or 4 years. So whatever growth we see in FY18, FY19 will be equal or better. And I think that kind of a similar accelerating growth is what we see even over the medium term.
Would you be an isolated case, or would you believe that the industry too can show similar trends, not in the same numbers, but would it be possible for the industry by and large, the Indian IT space by and large, select players if not all, to be able to reenact FY19 into FY20, FY21 as well?
At a macro level, 100% yes. If you see the amount that technology is pervading all industries, so whether you're a hotel or a hospital or an airline, every customer now thinks of themselves as a technology business, which therefore means service providers like us will definitely get a lot of growth. At a company-specific level, it depends on strategy, depends on execution. So at an individual organization level, somebody may do a little better, somebody may do a little worse. But for the sector as a whole and for the talent in this industry, I am 100% confident that there's an enormous amount of opportunity.
Okay. Now, I don't want you to draw the ire of some of your peers. Therefore, I won't get you into talking about what could happen to individual pockets here. But if I can just try and get a gauge from you as to what's changed, because the common refrain from people who track this space is that large cap IT, which is running a large portion of the bread and butter traditional outsourcing business, which still remains a large proportion of their P&L and balance sheets, might not be able to grow at a similar pace that small cap or mid cap IT would, because maybe they are more nimble, maybe a large proportion of the revenues comes in from the new age technologies as opposed to traditional outsourcing. Is that changing materially? One, is that assumption correct? And two, is that changing materially for large cap IT as well?
In my personal opinion, I don't think that assumption will hold good. And if you were to sort of zoom out and look at earlier times in history, Charles Darwin's actual prediction was that those who adapt faster will survive when times of change hit their. Obviously, he spoke from a biology standpoint, and you've seen the same thing from a business standpoint as well. So I think it'll be less about large versus small. A few of the players in our industry react to trends fairly quickly, are very close to their customers, have brilliant talent within their organization, and those that are nimble and adapt faster, I think will continue to do well. There are those who probably don't have those qualities, and those are the ones who will suffer. So I think you'll see both large and mid, some doing well and some not doing well.
Just to play the devil's advocate, Mr. Ravanan, I appreciate your point completely. Even large companies might be very nimble, and even smaller companies might not be as nimble at all. But for a nimble large company as well, to reduce the proportion of traditional outsourcing will take some time. Isn't that true? Or are you saying that even traditional outsourcing, the way Indian IT has been doing for the recent years, will see growth which is good enough to accompany the growth that comes in the new age digital verticals?
You have to learn that the way, at least my lens is of the world, my lens is showing me a multivariate equation and not a single or a dual variable equation. So even if you look at some of the large companies, there are few who have an enormous amount of resources, made a lot of very important strategy bets, and therefore are continuously growing both their traditional portfolio as well as their new business models, new technologies, etc. So I think all of us will continue to do something like that, and therefore those of us who get that formula right will do well. Second reason why I'm hopeful for those companies who are nimble, and again I'm consciously staying away from large or small, is that there's a lot of market share that the nimble companies can also get on both parts of the portfolio from those who are underperforming. So it is a marketplace. It's a marketplace that's rich with opportunities, and therefore the true success criteria will be a choice of strategy and commitment and execution behind that strategy.
Okay, one last question, Mr. Ravanan. I heard you mention at the first answer that this revenue growth uptick that could come in for a company like Mindtree would naturally be accompanied by an uptick in margins. In Q3, I must admit you surprised the street, me as well, with the kind of margin performance that you gave in. And now people are penciling in about 100-150 basis points uptick in margins from the levels that you posted in Q3, which means from 15 to maybe 16 and a half. My question is there a realistic chance of the numbers on the EBITDA margin front to move into newer orbits, northwards of 17 and a half, 18%, sustainably over the course of the next 5, 6, 7 years? Or is it difficult to predict that right now?
Oh, absolutely not. I think we are, as a management team, all of us are extremely conscious that our margins are below our own comfort level right now. Part of it is occasionally execution missteps within Mindtree, occasionally external factors that have led us to where we are, but we are continuously doing everything that we can to grow our margins. So getting back to somewhere in the region of 17-18% over the next 2 or 3 years is an absolute priority, and we are doing everything that we need to do to get there, and I'm quite confident that we will get there.
Wow. I'm so glad we had this conversation, Mr. Ravanan. This opens up some ideas about how to go ahead and revalue IT, mid-cap, large-cap, small-cap IT as well. Thank you so much for taking the time out. And I look forward to chatting with you post your Q4 numbers as well.
Wonderful. Same here.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time out.